Fox News alert now, well into the government shutdown at this point. Day 17, the White House is saying the president will head to the southern border later this week, and that he warns he may declare a national emergency to build the border wall. Let's go outnumbered overtime now. I'm Harris Faulkner. The partial government shutdown stretching into its third week. Republicans and Democrats fighting over border security. Administration officials and congressional staffers met over the weekend but failed to make much progress. The White House has announced the president will head to the southern border on Thursday to meet with those on the front lines of what they say is a national security crisis. Meanwhile, the president is warning he could take matters into his own executive hands.
We're looking at a national emergency because we have a national emergency. Just read the papers. We have a crisis at the border of drugs, of human beings being trafficked all over the world. They're coming through. And we have an absolute crisis, and of criminals and gang members coming through. It is national security. It's a national emergency.
Chief White House correspondent John Roberts, more now from the North Lawn. And John, last week I asked Mercedes Schlapp, right, standing where you are now, whether or not the White House would consider this. We've moved this forward a few days, and now we have it.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be much movement on it. We can tell you something. There's another moving piece to this as well, Harris. Fox News has learned that the president is considering making a primetime address about border security and the shutdown tomorrow night, that they're in the process now of talking with the networks to see if there is availability for a primetime address. So we'll keep you posted on that. In addition, as you mentioned, the president will be heading to the border on Thursday. It's likely that he'll go visit somewhere in the Rio Grande sector of Texas. And that's an area where a physical barrier, there are some just south of McAllen, Texas, just above Reynosa, the Mexican city there, but they're very small, maybe a couple of miles of a steel barricade. It's not an area where a big, tall fence would really work because there's a lot of private landowners who would butt the Rio Grande there, and they're certainly not going to want a wall built there on their property to cut them off from access to the river. But the president making more clear in a letter to the Appropriations Committee chairman in the Senate, Richard Shelby, exactly what he's looking for. The president asking in a letter for, quote, a request for $5.7 billion for construction of a steel barrier for the southwest border. A physical barrier wall creates an enduring capability that helps field personnel stop, slow down, and or contain illegal entries. The administration's full request would fund construction of a total of approximately 234 miles of new physical barrier. Last Friday and over the weekend, as you mentioned, the president threatened to declare a national emergency to build a border barrier, and dropping the idea, which is very unpopular with Democrats, of a concrete wall for something made of steel. Here's the president.
They don't like concrete, so we'll give them steel. Steel is fine. Steel is actually more expensive than concrete, but it'll look beautiful, and it's very strong.
Some Democrats immediately challenged the idea that the president could declare a national emergency to build a wall. But the president tweeting this morning, Congressman Adam Smith, the new chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, just stated, yes, there is a provision in law that says a president can declare an emergency. It's been done a number of times, no doubt, but let's get our deal done in Congress. Yesterday, Congressman Smith did suggest on one of the Sunday shows that it is possible, though perhaps not plausible. Listen here.
The answer is yes. There is a provision in law that says the president can declare an emergency. It's been done a number of times, but primarily it's been done to build facilities in Afghanistan and Iraq. And in this case, I think the president would be wide open to a court challenge saying, where's the emergency?
Both sides at the moment are dug in. The Democrats think that they can win this battle politically by making this whole idea of a border barrier, whether it be a concrete wall or even a steel slab fence, very unpopular with voters. But the president also believing that if he can keep this going long enough and make it all about national security, as he would in a primetime address tomorrow and as he will in his border visit on Thursday, he thinks he may be able to wear the Democrats down, and if not get $5.7 billion, at least get some distance toward that. Harris?
Yeah, you know, we've seen numbers, $2.5 billion from the vice president a couple of weeks ago. Now it's popped up above $5 billion, and we're at 5.7. So somewhere in there has got to be a magic number. Real quickly, when I talked with senior communications team member Mercedes Schlapp last week, the president still wanted to work with Congress. Are we still hearing that at this point?
Oh, he does want to work with Congress, but the White House is complaining that Congress doesn't want to work with him. They're saying no money for a wall at all. And here's the real irony of it all. The White House was willing to accept prior to Christmas $1.6 billion. They also wanted a $1 billion slush fund in there to use however they see fit, but they were willing just before the shutdown happened to accept $1.6 billion. So we're a lot further away now than we were back then.
No doubt. John Roberts, thanks for scooping up the facts.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.